Hello everyone, welcome to the next episode of SpongeBob Now. Today, I will be talking about sleepy time and suds. First, I'm going to talk about sleepy time. Enjoy. After settling for bed in the evening and sleeping, SpongeBob has a strange dream where he is driving a hot rod in a Krabby Patty themed location and he has his driver's license, then crashes into a rock. However, Mrs. Puff appears and tears up SpongeBob's license, and he is then propelled out of his own dream. He appears as a small, glowing version of himself in the outside world, where he sees himself sleeping. SpongeBob realizes that his soul has started traveling, and he sees Gary's dream cloud. He then jumps in. In his dream, Gary has a humanoid body who can speak English and resides in a huge library. Gary tells SpongeBob some limericks before SpongeBob goes out of Gary's dream cloud and into Patrick's. Patrick's dream is completely empty, except for a kiddie ride that he is riding on. SpongeBob explains to him that in a dream, he can do whatever he wants, which he demonstrates by changing size and creating a million copies of himself. Patrick says he's already satisfied, and SpongeBob goes out of Patrick's dream cloud. The ride then stops and Patrick takes out a quarter but drops it in a sewer grid. Next, he goes into Squidward's dream, where Squidward is playing his clarinet for a king in a theater. SpongeBob distracts the king by telling him a limerick that Gary recited in his dream, and Squidward stops, angry at SpongeBob for invading his dream. The king growls at him for not playing. After this happens several times, Squidward becomes so furious that he snaps his clarinet, but SpongeBob saves him by turning into a clarinet. It produces no sound, and SpongeBob just sings horribly, which surprisingly everybody applauds at. A crowd then picks up SpongeBob while throwing Squidward into a fruit cart, wondering how he can make such music. He then transforms back into his normal form and runs out the exit doors at the back of the theater. Squidward is knocked into the fruit cart by the audience and the king while they chase SpongeBob as he exits the dream. SpongeBob goes into Sandy's dream, where they are skydiving and have to land on a painted target. SpongeBob asks if it's kind of dangerous, and Sandy says, "Not as long as you got a big ol' parachute." SpongeBob misunderstands her twice, such perceiving, pair of shoes, and parakeet, and while trying to explain to him, Sandy fails to open her own parachute in time and lands in a truck filled with clam manure. SpongeBob falls out of Sandy's dream and says to himself, "All right, that's it. No more messing with people's dreams." However, he then goes to what he thinks is Mr. Krabs' dream, but actually is Pearl's dream, where she is having a tea party with her stuffed animals in a very childish and girlish setting. After realizing this, he immediately goes to Mr. Krabs' dream, where he's fishing for money. Mr. Krabs instructs SpongeBob to pull out his money net from his back pocket, which turns out to be Mr. Krabs' wallet. SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs manage to catch Moby Dollar, but it escapes and Mr. Krabs shoots SpongeBob out of the dream via a harpoon gun tied to SpongeBob. He is launched directly into Plankton's dream. Plankton, in his dream, is a giant monster and can shoot lasers from his eye, and is destroying the city. SpongeBob realizes that it isn't a dream, but a nightmare. Once Gary is about to be crushed by Plankton, SpongeBob pricks his foot by turning into a pushpin, and Plankton deflates. The angry Bikini Bottomites close in on him and Plankton tells them that he guesses he has some explaining to do, but gets his punishment by being stepped on by everyone else. Plankton then wakes up in terror. SpongeBob then goes back to his own dream cloud, where the angry faces of everyone whose dreams he entered appear around him. When he wakes up, everyone except Patrick is in his house complaining that he's messed up their dreams and tells him to stay out. Just before the episode ends, Patrick then appears out of nowhere and asks everyone if they have a quarter, and they stare at Patrick in confusion. Next, I'm going to talk about Suds. Enjoy. One night, SpongeBob has a dream about the sky raining Krabby Patties and realizes that he is hungry. He gets up to make himself a sea nut butter and jellyfish jelly sandwich, but falls asleep after taking the first bite and leaves the refrigerator open, causing his entire house to freeze overnight. By morning, he develops the Suds, an illness that causes him to sneeze bubbles. Gary tells SpongeBob he should stay home, but SpongeBob denies the fact that he's sick and goes to work anyway. SpongeBob is unable to keep up with his work, and when Mr. Krabs learns from Gary that SpongeBob has the Suds, he orders his fry cook to go home and rest. Back at home, SpongeBob decides he needs help and calls upon Sandy to take him to the doctor. Shortly after, he is visited by Patrick, who gives him a third-hand account of the doctor's office, describing it as a horrible place full of torture devices and outdated magazines. Terrified, SpongeBob asks Patrick to be his doctor instead. Patrick starts by plugging up all of SpongeBob's holes to prevent bubbles from coming out, causing SpongeBob to inflate every time he sneezes. After several more treatments, Sandy arrives at the house. Patrick tries to hide SpongeBob from her to no avail. Sandy says that SpongeBob needs to see a real doctor, but Patrick assures her that his patient is fine, leading to a squabble. In the commotion, SpongeBob is sent bouncing away and comes to a stop in front of the Krusty Krab. He sneezes violently, blasting the corks out of his holes and releasing a massive amount of bubbles, destroying the restaurant, much to Mr. Krab's annoyance. Sandy then takes SpongeBob to a real doctor. He prescribes the sponge treatment, which is performed by a human hand named Hans. The treatment involves being used to clean various objects and people, which SpongeBob enjoys greatly. Afterward, SpongeBob is cured and receives a giant lollipop. Wanting a lollipop of his own, Patrick pretends to also have the suds by blowing a bubble with SpongeBob's bubble jar. The doctor tells Dr. Patrick that they have a special treatment awaiting him. Hans returns and uses Patrick to clean a cactus and toilet as a punishment for worsening SpongeBob's illness by impersonating a doctor. Patrick ends the episode by crying out, "Wait! This doesn't seem right." Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more videos. Goodbye everyone.